I'm rubbing my hands together because the UFC just made probably the biggest and best, sickest fight we have seen in a while in the sport. And I'm hoping they promote it right. I'm hoping they do a lot of things right with this fight leading up to it. But Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland just got announced for UFC 328 with a couple other pretty good fights on the card. But we're not here to talk about the card. We're here to talk about this one specific fight in specific. Just cut that out. I'm gonna edit that out. But this is a fight that has been brewing, and people have been talking about this fight for the past probably 1.5 years now. Ever since Khamzat Chimaev moved up to middleweight, ever since he took out Robert Whittaker, and especially ever since he beat Dricus du Plessis months ago, UFC 319, in dominant 5-0, 50-45 fashion, 50-44 fashion. Khamzat dominated Dricus du Plessis. Now, this fight against Sean Strickland is so interesting in a multitude of reasons. First of all, why is this fight happening? Because Sean Strickland is only on a one-fight win streak. His last fight before that got dominated by the champion Dricus du Plessis, and Khamzat dominated Dricus du Plessis. So why is this fight happening? It is because of the hype behind the fight and the beef that these guys have had. Sean Strickland has talked so much trash, crap, swear words, a lot of those about Khamzat Chimaev. And Khamzat Chimaev has dished it back. But Sean Strickland has said crazy stuff about where Khamzat Chimaev is from, about his religion. He's called him the T, ends with the T word. Very bad words that I'm not going to repeat because I'm a family-friendly channel. But Sean Strickland has hyped this fight up so much before it was even announced. And one thing that's cool about this is that these guys have trained together a few years back. These guys were training together for a couple months. And the story behind it is that Sean Strickland got tapped out by Khamzat a few times. And that was 170 Khamzat too. And that was a prime Sean Strickland at 185. Sean Strickland is still in his prime. Which, by the way, we got to talk about Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez. First of all, I called it. I knew Sean Strickland was way better than Anthony Hernandez. These so-called Hernandez fans came out of nowhere. But we're not talking about that. Well, we will talk about that because that was a sick performance by Sean Strickland. And that definitely deserves to get him a big fight. I'm not too sure about the title shot, and here's why. Because Nasruddin Imavov, this French Dagestani, Nasruddin Imavov, is on a five-fight win streak. Last fight, beat Kyle Baralho probably 4-1 in their fight. Knocked out Israel Adesanya. Beat Brendan Allen pretty dominantly. Who did he get before that? I can't even remember. But Nasruddin Imavov has been on a roll. He 1,000% deserves this title shot over Sean Strickland. I don't know what's happened to him. Maybe he's injured. Maybe the UFC is just looking at this and saying, hey, it's not as popular of a fight as Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland, because it really isn't. And there's really no modern fights you can make besides any John Jones and McGregor fight. This is the other fight. Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria probably, would do better numbers than this. But here's the thing. The UFC is terrible at promoting nowadays, and I highly doubt they're going to promote this right. This could be Conor McGregor / Khabib number 2. And what I mean by that, obviously very different people these guys are. But it's kind of similar in the fact that you have the white guy from not from America / okay, I don't know why I try to compare America to Ireland, but you have the white trash talker, and then you have the Caucasus Mountain wrestler who's all about Alhamdulillah, Muslim guy. But Khamzat's crazy too though, so it's really not that similar to Conor versus Khabib. But what I'm saying is the trash talk is They better do an opening press conference too, or else I'm gonna be very disappointed. This fight is when is it? May 9th. We are in we are in March. January, February, March, April, May. 2 more months. They better have an opening press conference right now. If the UFC doesn't do that, I'm going to be very disappointed. And they're probably not going to do that. The UFC is straight up running their company into the ground. They're not catching up to modern times. They rarely have opening press conferences. The reporters ask dumb questions. They don't do face to faces anymore. They never really did in the first place. They did a few, but they should introduce face to faces now. Obviously, they shouldn't do a face to face for this, for obvious reasons. But an opening press conference for this, at least there should be at least 2 press conferences for this fight. And I'm not talking and that's including the one on Thursday they always do while they're weight cutting, which makes no sense. The UFC really doesn't make sense why they do that. But the trash talk is going to be insane. Sean Strickland is going to be mentioning where Khamzat's from. Kadyrov, the Chechen dictator, which I have no problem with Kadyrov. Seems like a very passionate guy. So Kadyrov, I'm looking out for you. I have no problem with Ramzan Kadyrov. Seems like a good leader, a good guy. But Sean Strickland has talked a lot of trash about Kadyrov and Khamzat, and in my opinion, in a very unfair and disrespectful way. But that's what makes this fight. And the press conferences are going to be insane because Khamzat's not a guy who's just going to take that. We know damn well there's going to be backstage fights. Someone's going to get up and do something at a press conference. And if the UFC doesn't take that opportunity and do that, they're dumb, man. Obviously, they're going to have the press conference on Thursday, 2 days before the fight, but they need to do one soon, maybe in a week or so. Fly these guys out to wherever. I'm sure Khamzat's in America already training with Sam Calavita. I believe he is. Sean Strickland obviously in America. They can do an opening press conference, and they have to. Paramount, UFC, you guys are dumb if you do not have these guys do opening press conference and have some interactions with them a couple months leading up to this, because that can promote this fight so much, especially with this new deal. This can be probably one of the most viewed UFC fights ever. It really can be. So please, UFC/Paramount, please promote this. I beg you. Now their fighting styles, I gotta say, we got Khamzat Chimaev. We know his fighting style. It's get in there, fake levels, shoots for you, and he shoots with all the intensity, and he gets you down. He gets every single one of his opponents down. There's nothing you can do about it. You can be the best wrestler you want. Khamzat's going to get you down. And Khamzat dominates his opponents on the ground, The only person he's never really been able to take down and control is Gilbert Burns, which I think that was just like a weird stylistic matchup. But Khamzat at 185, man, looks very good. Dominated Robert Whittaker, broke his jaw. Dominated Dricus du Plessis, put him in a crucifix for five rounds. Now, can he do that to Sean Strickland? I don't believe so. I actually do. And let's talk about Sean Strickland's style. Let's go back to Khamzat's style. Khamzat Chimaev also has power in his hands. Good boxing. He actually does have good, fundamental boxing. His head movement, really not that good. But what UFC fighter's head movement is good? Name one UFC fighter that has good head movement. You can't. Now, Sean Strickland, we already know. He's a teep your stomach guy. Walks with that kind of weird Philly shell type thing. Walks forward, chucking up those teeps, and just walks his opponents down with a really good jab and amazing defense. No one really gets good clean hits on him besides Pereira that one time, And Dricus, in the rematch. Which, by the way, I'm still gonna glaze that Dricus rematch. Dricus Duplessis in that Sean Strickland rematch was so good, and his striking was so good, man. Like, people just forget about that performance by Dricus. But besides that, this is a really, it's hard to tell which way it's gonna go because these guys have trained together, and one thing about them training together, Sean Strickland, years ago, he admitted that Khamzat tapped him out a few times, and then, a couple months back, few weeks back, during the Anthony Hernandez fight week, he starts mentioning how he made Khamzat quit. And the only times Khamzat tapped him was in positional grappling. Started talking about how he made Khamzat quit, and there's witnesses. And Khamzat gets tired, but that's also an older Khamzat. You can't really trust that in yourself, and in yourself that you can make Khamzat quit again. You just got to improve on your own game. Now, Sean Strickland. I don't know what I was going to say about Sean Strickland, but he's a guy that will just walk you down, and he will make you quit mentally. Not physically, though. He doesn't really make his opponents quit physically. We saw it against Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez quit physically and mentally. But he kind of, I think he, what's the word, man? His opponents just don't know what to do, man. They're just getting walked down, and they're not getting hit with the hardest shots, but they're getting hit, and it's so hard to hit him back, even though he's right there. If Khamzat can't take him down, man, it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna say this is a scary matchup for both of them, because we've seen Strickland get taken down pretty easily. But here's the thing, man. If we're comparing Strickland's grappling to Dricus's, I am actually gonna trust that Strickland has better. I think he has better fundamental wrestling than Dricus. And I've been saying Strickland should try offensive wrestling, but we know he's not going to do that. I think scary matchup for both. But Khamzat Chimaev, I believe, will be victorious. We really don't know, though, because if Khamzat Chimaev takes him down and he can't get Strickland out of there, I don't believe he can hold Strickland in a crucifix for 5 rounds. I don't believe he could do that. And Strickland is not a guy who gets tired. Strickland is a guy who keeps going. He stays calm, but here's the thing. I've seen him get taken down, get his back taken by Abus Magomedov for a whole round. I've seen him get taken down by Dricus decently easily. I don't think that was a word. But Strickland is very hard to keep down. But Abus kept him down, though. And I'm saying Khamzat's style, man, it's going to be hard. It's a scary matchup for both, because if Khamzat goes in there and he's not able to... First of all, he's going to be able to get Strickland down. That's not going to be the problem here. But if he's not going to be able to get the positions he wants, and if Strickland escapes a couple times, Strickland, I believe, still definitely has a better cardio. This could be a bad night for Khamzat. That's why it's a scary matchup for both. I'm leaning towards Khamzat because his wrestling is straight up too dominant, and he does have good striking too to mix it up in there. So, just a sick fight. Guys, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment whatever you want. Thank you for listening to my rant. Like, subscribe. Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland, UFC 328.